typical investment, you borrow £100,000 and someone says, yeah, we'll give you at 6% over 5 years. Your monthly repayments are going to be interest plus capital repayment on that investment, right? Now, blended social investment is slightly different, because what blended social investment does is says for us to make this a more accessible or a more exciting opportunity for the person who's borrowing, we're going to blend in some grant. And that's what Access Foundation do. Access use money to blend into social investment, to add a grant element into the program, and that was the opportunity for us. So we had an opportunity to blend in grant into what would otherwise be just a total repayable product, and that's working with the Big Society Capital. Today I'm going to be delivering a workshop which is on ethical social investment, and the word ethical I'll kind of elaborate on and come and explain a little bit more as the workshop we go through it. We're together for just under an hour. We're going to have a case study from a gentleman called Majid who's going to join us for the last 10 minutes, which will be online as well. But for the first 50 minutes, one second, what I hope you can achieve from this workshop, just to kind of set the standard and what you to expect, we're going to tell you a little bit about what we did, the process, which is part of the Local Access Bradford and District Partnership, which I'll explain a little bit about what we did to design and develop an ethical investment product for the market here in Bradford. The second thing, we'll talk about the process first, we'll then talk about the ethical investment product and some of the nuances and dynamics behind how we developed it and what the thinking was whilst we were developing it. We'll share our offer, so if there's anyone in the room who thinks a social investment product could be useful for them, could be beneficial for them to develop their work and deliver what they're doing, we're going to tell you a little bit about what we've got on offer. If it's not directly beneficial to you, especially those of you that live in the Bradford district, I hope you can go away with that information, share it in your network, so there may be someone who can benefit from it. It's a pioneering product. I think it's the first of its kind, and we're doing it here in Bradford, and I think it's a really great opportunity for those that are eligible. And then we'll hear from Majid, which is the case study. A little bit about myself. My name's Kamran Rashid. I'm the founder and chief executive of Impact Hub Bradford. Impact Hub Bradford is a locally rooted, globally connected co-working space in Little Germany. We established in 2017 but joined the Impact Hub family in 2020. Just to give you an idea of the network, there's 109 hubs across the world. Head office is in Vienna in Austria. There's one opening on 5th Avenue in New York. There's 3 in the UK, one in London, which is by King's Cross Station, and they're opening a second site in the same building as the new Meta HQ by Euston, and the second one was in Inverness, so right at the north of the country of United Kingdom, and we're bang on in the middle. So there's 3 hubs here in the UK, as well as the social investment work that we've been involved in. For those of you that are TED enthusiasts, we hold the license for TEDx Bradford. We've done a 10-day academy with Red Bull. We're the regional partner on a Phoenix Fund, which is a £62.5 million fund to support racially minoritized organisations in Yorkshire and Humber. We've run a partnership with Channel 4, and we just do stuff that makes a difference here in the district and the region. If you're interested, go on our website and you'll get more details. In addition to Impact Hub, I'm also involved in the City of Culture. I'm a founding trustee of that. My most recent role, I've just been appointed by government onto the National Lottery Community Fund England Committee, which now gives us influence over the distribution of £500 million worth of grants a year to community groups across England. That's my CV done in 2 minutes. So that's a little bit about us, Impact Hub and myself. So I'm going to start with kind of sharing a little bit about what the process was and how this ethical investment product came about. I think it's important to know. So there's a few partners in the room which make up the Local Access Bradford and District Partnership. Local Access Bradford District is a partnership of a number of organisations that came together to bid for a share of £33 million. So Access Foundation, which is Mina, if you want to put your hand up. Mina's here from Access.
It's not just me, though.
Yeah. But there was a team, but Mina's here with Access. So Access Foundation and Big Society came together. There was a £33 million prize up for grabs, a share of. 12 cities in the UK were invited to pitch for it, and 5 would be successful. Bradford was one of the successful ones, and the reason we were successful is the process that we ran and the pitch that we put forward, and we won £6.6 million to deliver a social investment fund specifically for Bradford district. And when we talk about the district, that includes Keighley, Ilkley, Willesden, Oxenhope and the surrounding areas, not just the inner city. And one of the things we did when we started that process of bidding to become, win a share of that £33 million is we listened. And I think if I was to share within this presentation, there'll be a couple of things if people are interested in their own work, thinking about how do we make our investments or our products or our work more inclusive. I hope there's some learning within this that'll be supportive and beneficial to you guys. One of the things we did is we listened. So in April 2019, when we were asked as a city to bid for this share of the £33 million, the first thing we decided at Impact Hub Bradford, who led that development phase, is we said we would listen to the communities that we seek to serve. It would have been very easy for me and a bunch of people, the partners who are in the room, to sit together and said, you know what, this is what we think people need, this is what we're going to develop, and this is what we'll offer. But what we wanted to do is really make it an authentic program, and we wanted to design authentic products which will serve the people of the district. And that's exactly what we did. We went out and we did open sessions, we did co-design sessions where anyone from the community could come along and tell us what they wanted to see in this program that we were developing. So we listened. Second thing is we co-produced. When we were listening, when we were coming up with solutions and ideas, we would then take them and sense check them back with the community. We co-produced it. Is this something that you think would be useful? Is this something you want to see? So we co-produced. The third thing was partnership. And we had a really, really strong partnership. And I think at this point, if I could just ask the partners who are involved in the Local Access Bradford, there's a few of you in the room, if you could just stand up, please. Ashfaq, Tamina, Adrian, if there's anyone else. So if there's a couple of people. So Adrian at the back there, if you want to just wave, is from Key Fund. They're our social investment expert. They're probably the most respected social investors, especially in the north of England, if not in the UK. So we were very privileged to have them as a partner. Ashfaq, who is part of Inspired Neighbourhoods, if you want to stand up, quite an established and respected organisation within the district with a large infrastructure. So they were the right partner to come on. And an organisation also that has taken on social investment. And then Tamina, who is part of the university, one of the things we did is had the university as a partner to make sure that we had learning and evaluation built into what we were developing. And then there was a number of other partners, including PwC, which were part of it, Bradford Council, and we've now got 4 community organisations who sit on our partnership that represent and reflect the district that we serve. Values were important to us, and we're keeping this really brief, and I'll keep it but if anyone wants to pick up any of these points in more detail, grab me straight after the session and we can go through them. We thought about values. What are the values that are important when we're doing this? And some of them are there. It was about listening, about being authentic, but we were a value-driven partnership. We wanted to make sure that we did things the right way. It wasn't just about number crunching, but being value-driven and having expert advice. I think we realized if there was something we didn't know something about, and the ethical investment product was something we did need a bit more expertise on, we brought the experts in when we needed to. This was not about saying everyone's gonna do everything. We leaned into the strengths of the partners and we made sure the partnership was strong. So that was a little bit about the process. Which then leads me on to, we developed the product, and how we got there is during them listening activities, them co-producing. I remember running a session saying a lot of people didn't understand what social investment was. There were some people that did, but there's organisations in the district that are delivering impact, but never saw social investment as an opportunity. We live in a culture, especially within Bradford, which is always being grant driven. So when you've been dependent or you live on a culture of always having grants and grants being non-repayable, social investment as an idea, people don't understand the opportunity behind it. So there's a whole cultural shift we've had to do with the program as well. But in one of the sessions, I remember we said, someone asked, so what is social investment? And we said, well, social investment is getting money to develop something that you're doing, but having to pay it back. And they says, okay, would you just pay back what you receive? And we said, no, it's like a typical loan. You know, there's interest on it. And the response I got in the room, it was at Kala Sangam, I still remember. And the person said, well, as a Muslim, we can't pay interest. So I can't take on social investment. That all automatically excludes me from seeing a social investment as an opportunity. And that really made me think. And there was the guys who now run the Fountains Church, they were in the room as well. And they says, actually, we, you know, it's not something we can, but actually we would prefer to have something that was interest-free. And that's where the idea of developing a product which was interest-free or ethical, as we've called it, and I'm going to come on to language now, was developed. That's where it came. We listened to the communities and we co-produced with them, and this is something they said that they needed. Now, we were very, very fortunate. And why we were fortunate is we had Access Foundation that had blended into social investment. So quick kind of overview with social investment is typical investment, you borrow £100,000 and someone says, yeah, we'll give you at 6% over 5 years, your monthly repayments are going to be interest plus capital repayment on that investment, right? Now, blended social investment is slightly different, because what blended social investment does is says for us to make this a more accessible or a more exciting opportunity for the person who's borrowing, we're going to blend in some grant. And that's what Access Foundation do. Access use money to blend into social investment, to add a grant element into the program. And that was the opportunity for us. So we had an opportunity to blend in grant into what would otherwise be just a total repayable product. And that's working with the big society capital. So language became a thing for us. And again, I hope you find this interesting, because when we started developing this product, we had to really think carefully about language. And in the first iteration of developing this product, we used the word a faith-sensitive product. And that was exactly what it was. There were people, communities of faith, that said, we want a product that responds to our needs. So we talked about a faith-sensitive product, but then we also became mindful that there might be communities that are not faith-driven that might think, okay, why is there a faith-sensitive product? Why shouldn't there should also be a non-faith-sensitive product as well, or whatever? So we kind of thought, okay, to be on more kind of neutral and safer territory, the language evolved into ethical investment and ethical financing. And we kind of thought it's a little bit more accessible, it's a little bit more neutral, doesn't bring religion, doesn't bring politics into it. So we went with the term ethical. It was only later on that someone on our partnership, and it was actually the Vice Chancellor of the university, and the university being a partner on this program, said, actually, this is a Sharia compliant product, Kamran, isn't it? And I said, yeah. They said, well, we should be proud about calling it a Sharia compliant product, because if we're responding to the needs of the community, and there's a significant portion of Bradford's population that is Muslim, why should we shy away from saying what we've created? We should be proud and we should own it. So we do now talk about a Sharia compliant social investment product. And we'll come on to something regarding that, around parity and equality connected to that shortly. So the second word you see that I've put up there is called riba and interest. And riba is the Arabic word for interest. So for Muslims, for those of you that don't know, paying interest, but also receiving interest is totally forbidden. So any transaction that involves interest would exclude large parts of the community, to the extent that there's people within the Muslim community that won't get a mortgage and will continue to just live in rented property because they don't want to pay interest on a mortgage. Some people might be a little bit more relaxed, like there is in all communities. Different people have different thresholds on as to the rules and how strict and how loosely they follow them. But parts of the community would not take on a product if it had riba, which is interest. Now, what we did, just to kind of give you an idea of what we've developed, I've put Joe Bloggs versus Mrs. Khan. it's not an MMA fight or a boxing match, right? It's not a and but it kind of demonstrates equality and parity, what we wanted. I think parity is the right word there. So just to give you an idea of what we've developed and what came about from when we listened. So Joe Bloggs comes to us and says, I've seen this building, it costs £100,000, and what I want to do is create a youth centre for the kids of this estate. There's nowhere else for them to go, and we know we can do some really great work with them, but we need this asset. So they come to us and say, can we borrow £100,000 to purchase that building? So we would say to them, we've done some provisional checks, yeah, that this all stacks up, we can lend you 100,000. So what we would say to Joe Bloggs, and these are kind of loose figures, we would say, we lend you 100,000, but what we're going to do is out of that 100,000, we're going to give you £20,000 grant, which is the blended element, which comes from Access Foundation. So that £20,000 you don't have to pay us back, but we're going to give you £80,000 repayable finance, which might be over 3 years, 5 years, 8 years. And that £80,000 is going to be on 6% repayable terms, or whatever it is, 6.5%, right? So Joe Bloggs is thinking, do you know what, this makes a lot of sense to me. I'd rather come here than go to a high street lender, because I'm getting £20,000 grant, plus I'm getting £80,000 on a market kind of rate. Now Mrs. Khan comes to us, and Mrs. Khan comes to us and says, look, I've seen a building, it costs £100,000, and we want to open a shelter for homeless people. We're seeing homelessness has become a big issue in the district, and we want to support them by having a kind of place where they can come stay 3 nights, and we, in that time, we do a support package for them before moving them on. So I make the same offer to Mrs. Khan that I did to Joe Bloggs, and Mrs. Khan's response to me is, sorry Kamran, but actually as a Muslim, I'm not comfortable with paying that interest. So thank you very much, but we're going to decline this offer. So we've lost the potential to support someone who could deliver social impact within our district. Now what we would do there is respond to Mrs. Khan and say, wait on, actually did you know that we've developed this Sharia compliant social investment product? So what we're going to do with you, Mrs. Khan, is we're going to lend you £100,000, but we want £100,000 back. But unlike Joe Bloggs, where Joe Bloggs was paying 6% on £80,000, you don't have to give us no 6%. You borrow 100,000 and you return 100,000, but you're not getting £20,000 grant. And that's where the Sharia compliant product came. And the product which I've just designed here, if someone borrows 100 and returns 100, in Arabic it's known as Qarz Hasna. So for any Muslims in the room, when, you know, especially like religious institutions or orphanages set up, they might go to really wealthy individuals, or what we call high net worth individuals, who will lend them some money, and they will lend them it on the terms of, we're going to give you it for 5 years, here's £250,000, just give us £250,000 back. And they see that as they're doing like a godly favour almost. But it's not about making money or interest, but it's about helping an organisation deliver impact. Now, the reason I wrote equality and parity is, for me, I've got a background in equality and diversity. We wanted to design a product which was very much, whether you're Mrs. Khan or Joe Bloggs, the benefits are equal no matter which way you take. Because if one product benefited more than the other, then actually it makes it not equal. And that would become problematic, because then people would say, why are they getting a better deal than us? And we didn't want to displace that kind of disengagement or discrimination. We wanted to make sure it was truly equal. Now, before I kind of describe how we did that, just to let you know, one of the other things we built into the process of what we did is Joe Bloggs and Mrs. Khan both have the option to access either grant. They can go Sharia compliant or non-Sharia. A Sharia compliant investment is not limited on just being a Muslim. So if your name's not Mohammed or Mrs. Khan, you can still access that. And I think that makes it accessible and equal. Or you might be Mr. Ahmed, and Mr. Ahmed may be very comfortable with paying interest and may want to benefit from the grant, so they can go for the non-Sharia compliant product as well. So it was accessible to both. But what we're doing on the case study you're going to hear from today is about this site, and we'll tell you what we're doing and how they're going to hopefully benefit from the product. We've not made the first investment yet, and we're now kind of putting together the final pitch to get it over the line to do that first investment. And it took us 4 years, and I think that was one of the points I was meant to make on the previous slide. For those of you that really want to do systems transformation work, just remember it takes time. You can't rush it. These things, we started April the 10th, 2019, when Hugh will remember we ran a workshop at my hub in Little Germany. That was our first session when we kicked off, saying that this is an opportunity we're bidding for. We've just passed April 2023, 4 years later, and we're just about now going to make our first investment. Now, bearing in mind there was a pandemic in between that, so which has slowed it down. But to do proper transformational work, to bring people on site takes time. And I remember hearing a comment from the Vice Chancellor of the university, Shirley, and Shirley says to me, we both sit on the local enterprise partnership and the West Yorkshire Combined Authority, and they launched their own investment fund. And when they launched it, they were speaking about it in the boardroom, and I remember Shirley offered some contributions, and she pulled me aside after and says, Kamran, the reason I could confidently contribute today's meeting at the LEP was because of what I've learned through this on the local access. And the point I'm making is that as a social investment market, Bradford's not had a mature or a sophisticated kind of social investors. So for us to have been through this partnership, it's developing the capacity and of the city and the district as well, and of the knowledge and experience of people. But going back to Joe Bloggs and Mrs. Khan, the final point I'll make before I come on, and guys, I'd really want to leave an opportunity for you to ask questions as well. I'm mindful I'm talking a lot. Is both Joe Bloggs and Mrs. Khan will have the same value and benefit at the end of their repayment period. And that's something we've really designed in to make sure that because Mrs. Khan's not getting £20,000, that's the £20,000 that Joe Bloggs will end up paying. It's not the exact figures there, but just to give you an idea, the interest that Joe Bloggs would pay, that grant that Miss Khan is not getting, is that grant that's offsetting the interest payments. So if people think, oh, why are them Muslims always getting a better deal than us? Actually, that's not the way it's been designed. It's been designed in a way that no matter which way you take it, you benefit, but it's responding to a community need and a religious need. If there's any organisation in the room that is from the Bradford district and is thinking about, okay, that's all great and well, you telling us your life story and a once upon a time story there, I've just come to find out about how I can get the money, show me the money, right? So this is a little bit about, thank you Amma for that encouragement there. So what is the product, and if you're interested, how can we help you? So first and foremost, you have to be from the Bradford district. That can be Ilkley, it can be Keighley, it can be Willesden, but it can also be Little Horton, Great Horton, Leeds Road, Bradford Moor. If you live in the Bradford district, you qualify. That's the first thing. You cannot be, and I think maybe we need to qualify this at this stage, you cannot be a private limited for-profit company. If you are a CIO, a charity, a CIC which has an asset lock and does not distribute its profits and reinvest all of them back into the company, then you qualify. So you have to be a not for what we call a not for private profit. We want you to make profit, but it's not for private investors and shareholders, but the profits reinvested back in to deliver further social impact. We are offering up to £10,000 social investment readiness grant. So if you're an organisation and you think, do you know what, this is something that I would like to access, but in order for you to access that, you might need a business plan. You might have a building that needs a little bit of thinking through, or you need to do the costs on it. And them costs, you need to know whether it stacks up for you to take on a social investment. Because the numbers, when you've crunched them, they might, no loan, no investment might stack up. And you might actually come back to us and say, thank you, but no thank you. So what we're doing is, if you're interested, get in touch with me. Ashfaq's at the back over there. Get in touch with Ashfaq, who's the program manager on this, and say, yes, I'm interested in finding out. We'll connect you to one of our partners who runs Airedale Enterprises, Wendy. Unfortunately, he's had a family bereavement and is not here today for that reason. She will call you up and do a quick diagnostics, and in that diagnostics you may well be ready to proceed straight onto social investment. If you are, then you'll go to Adrian's team, and then they'll work with you through the application to help you draw down up to a maximum of £250,000 social investment. But on the Sharia compliant, up to 100,000. But if we feel that actually there's more work that needs to be done before you can get there, but we think actually you have got an opportunity to take on social investment, you're not ready yet, but you could. What we're doing is offering a £10,000 non-repayable grant, and that £10,000 is to make you investment ready. It's for you to use on getting your business plan, your cash flow forecast, any licenses, etc. that you need. It might be actually just paying for a bit of your capacity to spend a bit of time on developing this. We can pay for that, and so we're offering a £10,000 up to £10,000 grant in order for you to do that. For the ethical or the Sharia compliant product, which is what this session's about, we're offering up to £100,000 social investment. And there's three main areas that you can kind of draw down that money or apply for that money. One, which is the obvious, most secure type of lending, which is asset-backed lending. You've got a building, you want to do a renovation, you want to do an asset transfer, etc. You need some money, you can come to us for £100,000. The second one is a working capital. So you've got a contract for adult social care starting in 9 months, but you need to appoint a program manager now before you start drawing down your money from your contract. You need some working capital in order for you to get there, so you can come to us on one's your standard bridging loan, which is you've got some money coming in. But I don't know if the bridging loan was on the Sharia compliant, but we can confirm that. Does that sound right, Adrian? Yeah. The other thing is what we're doing, which probably NatWest or Lloyds or Barclays wouldn't do for you guys, is we're offering support as well. And that support is we're running these sessions. So we run these 4 times a year. We're doing intro to social investment sessions 4 times a year, because some people don't know what social investment is. If you're a not-for-private profit company, you have a board of directors or a board of trustees who need convincing, who are ultimately going to be signing off whether you take on that loan or not. You might want us to come and meet them and do a bit of trustee training to share what that opportunity for you is on taking this investment. We can offer that. We're also now offering workshops on a range of topics, and we're now going to be launching 2 programs. One is going to be around an asset-backed program. So any organization that is taking on or has recently taken on an asset and is thinking about how do they commercialize that, how do they generate income from that, how do they make that a real opportunity to take on social investment, we're going to be running support programs. And in addition to that, we broker connections and relationships and referrals onto other opportunities. And then the final thing is the role of the honest broker. And then is Majid ready? Then we're going to hear from our case study, which you can do now. We've got the role of the honest broker, and the honest broker role is something which is unique to this program. And it's a role that we developed to say, actually, there's some communities, for example, that don't have trust in commercial or mainstream organizations. So the honest broker's role is several, but one of the roles it plays is to build that relationship and broker them relationships between organizations who have historically not accessed funding, may be reluctant to speak to someone who they think is very corporate or commercial, to speak to them in order for them to build the trust before they take on that investment. And we're definitely seeing that role being really valuable in helping us and supporting us to engage communities that have otherwise been left behind. So Majid is going to speak to us, but just a little bit before we bring Majid in, one of the first investments that we're looking at making from the ethical investment pot of funding is for the site that we're on. So we're on what's called the Mustafa Mount, which is led by a charity called Greensville Trust, who have taken over this 2 years ago. And in my role as honest broker, I've been working with Majid to support them access money through us to help realize one element on site here. So Majid, if you just want to first of all quickly introduce yourself, who you are, and then give us a 2-minute overview of what Greensville Trust does and what you're hoping to achieve here on Mustafa Mount, and then I'll come on to asking you a little bit about why ethical or a Sharia compliant social investment product is really important for you to see on the market, and how it can help you unlock potential in what you are hoping to achieve here on site. So Majid, first of all, a little bit about yourself, Greensville Trust and the site that we're on.
Okay, so I'm Majid, as Kamran just said, so I'm the General Manager for Greensville Trust. Greensville Trust is a charity that's been operating since 2005, started with a focus on education, but over the years sort of evolved to deliver greater social impact. This site was acquired 2 years ago, and there's a huge vision that we want to realize here, and that's sort of split into 4 segments. One is around education, one is around enterprise, so we're hoping to open a business incubation center here. The next one is around hospitality, so where you are at the moment, venue hire, hotel, events, weddings, etc. And then the last one is around healthcare. So that's both physical and mental well-being. And we've got 14 acres to go at. And obviously this vision is huge and it requires significant investment. Now, historically, the trust has been very narrow in terms of how it accesses funds and raises funds. So when this opportunity came along with Kamran, it sort of unlocked a few doors for us, which we would have historically accessed. I hope I did that within 2 minutes, Kamran.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant, Majid. And why is it important for an organisation like Greensville Trust to see a Sharia compliant product on the market?
So unlike many other organisations, what we can't do is access finance through banks which attract interest. So that's something that wouldn't be considered. And that's traditionally one of the sort of main routes where organisations do access finance. So that would be problematic for us. So this is an alternative vehicle for us to achieve the same finance without the interest element. So it's become much more accessible for us.
And can you share a little bit about the particular, without going into the details and the amounts, etc., of what you're accessing from us, what would a Sharia compliant social investment from the local Access Bradford district partnership, what is that thing that you're looking at unlocking from that potential social investment?
Okay, yeah, no issue. So what we're hoping to do within the sort of education element of vision, we are hoping to open a nursery. And also what we're hoping to do is use the money as that initial investment to set the nursery up, to recruit the team, marketing, get the building sort of set up, etc. And then for the nursery to generate its own income to repay the finance back, so it's sort of self-sufficient, the nursery. So the loan will be from the nursery element as a standalone business unit, which services that debt from its own income.
And does Greensville Trust have any experience of running a nursery, or is this the first time you're going into it?
No, we've got a nursery in Liverpool, and it's achieved outstanding across the board with the Ofsted. That was last year. We got inspected, and it's a very, very successful nursery. And one of the sort of first things that we do with very young children who are actually at the nursery is get them to engage with the community. So one of the first things that we get the children to do is go and visit other faith institutes. So they did a church yard cleanup, for example. So it's all about learning to, from a very young age, to be very sort of contribute to society, think about the well-being of the broader community, the environment, etc. That sort of instilled in them from a very young age, and then they were involved in food banks, etc. And this is something that that Ofsted were really impressed with.
Fantastic. And for those of you that, so I'm a father of 2 young kids. I've got 2 girls, I'm hoping my daughter will eventually come here. And the reason for that is, if any of you are aware of the Montessori model, it's going to be a Montessori nursery that they're going to open on site here. Majid, so I do have a question for you now. You talk about being an organization that, you couldn't take interest because of religious reasons. Is your space only open to Muslims, or do you have accessibility for other communities as well, or do you limit it to just Muslims?
No, absolutely not. And the trustees and the Sheikh himself has been very, very clear that if this site is only used by people from the Muslim community, that would be classed as a failure, that the whole vision has failed. So this is open to everyone. And so the activities that we are sort of running, for example, the beekeeping course, it's generated a lot of interest from all communities, the gardening course. We run, so every year we have a number of events, and the last big one, which was called the Virtues, was run from the Life Centre in Bradford, and we deliberately invited people from all sections of the community to come and join in that gathering.
Fantastic, Majid. It's been an absolute pleasure. For those of you that don't, Majid travels here, has a huge commitment on site. He's also, outside of Greensville Trust, can you just share a little bit about your other roles?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a cohort director for the University of Manchester, delivering on a master's program for healthcare leaders. People want to become leaders within the health and care sector. I'm also the vice chair of the West Yorkshire Integrated Care Board, and do some other sort of charity work in Oldham and other places. And we're doing some work at the moment with an organisation called Morgan Sindel. And again, he's an organisation, third largest construction company in the country, who wanted a bit of help to diversify their workforce, which they sort of admitted and said, we've struggled for the last sort of 3 decades in that space. And we helped them sort of remove some of those barriers and sort of started to diversify their recruitment. And it was very, very successful, that campaign. So we're hoping to do more of that.
Okay, and finally, I guess my final question is, besides the social investment that you're looking at drawing down from the Local Access Bradford District Partnership, have you had any other value or benefit of being linked in with this partnership? And if you haven't, that's fine as well.
No, absolutely. Obviously, when you're new at something, so Greensville traditionally has not been an organisation that's accessed grants, for example, something that's not been considered, something that's not been done. So as a first-time entrant in that space, there's a lot of learning to do. There's a lot of handholding, walking through the processes, etc. And this whole process has really, really been helpful to us. And we've also been putting business plans, etc. together previously, but the plans you've got to put here are different. There's a different set of asks. So there's a lot of help and support provided, with templates, etc., and how you put that together, how you do a risk assessment purely for this sort of type of finance, etc. But so it's not only about accessing the finance, but a lot of learning in the process, which can be transferred to other sort of funding applications.
Fantastic, Majid. I won't take much more of your time. I do appreciate you kind of taking time out to join us and to contribute. I'm sure the room here has found it valuable. Thank you very much, and we'll be in touch about other stuff later on. Thank you, Majid.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks a lot. See you soon.
Yeah. So you get a sense of what they're doing and who they are. Just to kind of give you a little bit of an oversight, this is a 15-acre site. There's 8 significant buildings here. They've taken it over 2 years ago. They're hoping to achieve a huge amount here. For those of you that may be interested in novels, if any of you have read the book, The Beekeeper of Aleppo, the actual beekeeper of Aleppo is on site here. So there's 8 beehives on site, which are managed and looked after him. He's a Syrian refugee who's come here, so he's working on site. There's permaculture gardens that they've got at the top here. They're doing everything in a sustainable way, and they're really hoping to achieve a lot. They've done a lot with all communities within the district. I'm a director of the City of Culture team. The City of Culture team have been up here. They're launching an arts gallery space as well. It's an absolutely incredible space, and I probably feel more privileged to be able to support them than they ever will, having the benefit of being supported by us. So that's been great to be involved in Greensville Trust. And Zafran at the back over there has been very, very kind and generous with looking after us today and making sure that our needs are met at a discounted rate, just to make sure that we felt that we were looked after and we could hold it here. So I want to acknowledge that and thank you, Zafran, and the team at Greensville Trust for making that work for us.